Hello, Wayne from Talk Cars. In this video we're going to look at car tuning stages. There's a lot of confusion about what these terms actually mean, and we're going to look at which stage is best for you and for your car project, and we're going to try and demystify some of these expressions and show what the actual standard of stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3 tuning is. It gets confusing when you look at websites of manufacturers of tuning parts and tuning shops. They'll have a menu of many different stages of tune, but if you look closely you'll notice that each of them put different parts in, have different power gains. Some even go to stages 5 or 6, whereas others may stick to stages 1, 2 and 3. So talking about stages in those terms, it's irrelevant. It's much like talking about the weather. You might say it's warm or it's cold. It depends where you are. If you're in the Antarctic and you're saying it's warm, it's still going to be pretty chilly. If you're in the middle of a desert, you might say it's cooler today, but actually relatively it is still very hot. So those terms of stages on websites and car parts are very much down to who you're talking to, and they have no real meaning whatsoever. But there is a standard acceptance of the 3 tuning stages and what these mean for parts, and especially when we talk about stages of tuning, this definition is what we go by. So first of all, you'll have stage 1 parts. These are parts that can be fitted to your car with no other parts required. They will work quite happily. Now you might add an induction kit or air filter, a sports exhaust. You might get a remap done, you might get all 3 done. You've still only applied stage 1 mods to your car, because all of those stages will work independently of each other quite happily. So moving on to the second stage of car tuning, stage 2 parts. Many people think of stage 2 parts as parts that need to be bolted into the engine. They require a bit more work. Maybe the engine needs to be dismantled, but certainly a stage 2 part will require other mods to make it work. You can't just bolt a stage 2 part on. A classic example of this might be a larger turbo. You would need to uprate the fueling and get the mapping changed to make it work. Your car would just not work with a bigger turbo on it in the first place. So stage 2 parts are a little more complex, but they do make much bigger power gains. Now stage 3, you're into the realms of motorsport mods. They're mods that are generally not street legal, and they only work effectively on the track. So a classic example of this might be race brakes. They need to get hot in order to be effective. On the track, you're going to be using them hard on the corners quite regularly, and they're going to spend most of their time in their optimum operating temperature range. But you take that onto a street car and you don't use your brakes as much, or hopefully you don't need to use your brakes as much. It depends what the local drivers are like in your area. But you're outside of the ideal optimum range for those brake pads, so they won't be effective at all in your case. Fast road cams, you can get very aggressive profiles that move the power band right up into the upper part of the RPM range. But on a street car, that will make the car very difficult to drive in stop-start traffic. The idle will be erratic, and you've basically moved the power away from where you're going to spend most of your time driving the car. So stage 3 mods are just not practical for road use, but also in a lot of cases they're not legal for road use. The parts used often aren't certified for road use, or you may have to remove pollution controls. The common one is removing the catalyst. If you do that in pretty much every state where our members are, you'll be falling foul of the construction and use of vehicle regulations. So your car would not be legal, and you can certainly get cited for driving a car with those illegal mods. So we said at the beginning which of those mods are going to be most effective for your car. Well, if you're just planning to do the occasional mod, you're just getting into it, stage 1 mods, there's nothing wrong in that. In fact, just adding a remap can make a big difference to your car if you're lucky enough to have one with a turbo. But we often see people adding a stage 1 mod, maybe doing a remap. They like the feel of that, they come along, they add a sports exhaust, they really need to get it remapped again to get the maximum benefit from it. Then they've got the modding bugs, so they'll come along and they'll add an induction kit, maybe a larger turbo, maybe a different sports exhaust to support the turbo they've just added. They'll have to remap it again. So doing it in those stages, you've actually incurred a lot of unnecessary costs because you're paying to undo some of the mods that you've already done. So if your plan is to do some extensive mods on your car, I'd certainly recommend going straight in at stage 2. Do your research, get your parts list to hit the power figure you want and to put the power band exactly where you need it to be, and just invest that and have the car done and finished and enjoy it. You'll save a lot of the trial and error. Now, a few people watching this video are just going to use their car on the track. If that's you, there's no point at all trying to make it road legal. If it's a track only used car, you're going to want to shave every 1/10 of a second off your lap times. So you really want to push the power bands to the absolute maximum and get the maximum advantage from the power gains. So we hope this video has been useful to you. We've spoken about a lot of mods, and surprisingly a lot of the mods that people do are just not effective on the road car. They either do it wrong or the manufacturer's claims are just over optimistic to start with. So we're going to be dissecting some of these mods in very detailed articles and video tutorials, and help you to make wise decisions when it comes to choosing parts for your car. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us to get out there, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.